So in this video, we're going to be learning how to add and subtract matrices. So let's go ahead and get started. So we have two examples here. And adding and subtracting matrices is not difficult. You're just taking each element within a matrix and adding them together. So for example, here in example 1, we start here with a 2 by 3 matrix, and we have another 2 by 3 matrix. And so we're going to take each individual element in its place and add it with the corresponding place in the other element. So we are going to end up with another 2 by 3 matrix. So here we have 2 and 7, which add up to give you 9, and that's the first row and the first column. If I stay in the first row but move to the second column, I have 5 plus negative 2, which is 3. Then I have 4 plus 6, which is 10. Then if I move down to the second row, first column, I have the 3 plus the 8, which is 11. Negative 2 and a 4 is 2. And negative 3 and positive 1 is negative 2. So because of this, when we add and subtract matrices, we can only add and subtract matrices that have the same rows and columns. If I have different rows and columns or a different size matrix, then I simply cannot add them together. So subtraction works the same thing. If this had been a subtraction here, then instead of adding like the 2 and the 7, let me go back. Instead of adding the 2 and the 7, what I would have done is subtracted 2 minus 7, and it would have been a negative 5 here instead of a positive 9. So let's take a look at number 2, a little bit more challenging of a question possibly. Here we have the entire expression. We have 10 minus the w is equal to 6, and we have to figure out what w is. That's kind of like an individual question on its own. We have 10 minus w equals 6. Now some of us might be able to figure out what that is on our own. If not, we could subtract 10 from both sides, divide by negative 1, but we know that w has to be 4 because 10 minus 4 is 6. So the first one would be w is 4. Then if we want to figure out what x is, here we have x minus 5, and that gave us negative 2. So x minus 5 gave us a negative 2. So this might be a little bit more difficult to figure out, but if I add 5 to both sides, I can see that x is going to be equal to positive 3. And so x is 3. So then we need to figure out what y is. And so here we have 12 minus y equals z. And I can't figure out what that y is, but I have another y here that comes from this expression. W minus x equals y. Well, I now know that w is 4 from this expression here. So that's w, that's 4 minus x. And I also know that x is 3, and that equals y. And so 4 minus 3 is 1, which means y is 1. So we now have what y is. So now I want to figure out what z is, and I have the z in this location here, which is the second row, second column. So that means I could start with the 12, and I have 12 minus y, but y is 1. And so 12 minus 1 is 11. So that means that z is 11. So now I still have the m and the n to figure out. So I know that z is 11. So this z here is 11. And if I take 11 minus 10, I get m. And 11 minus 10 is 1. So that means that m is 1. And if m is 1, that means right here I have, I'm running out of room here, I have a 1 minus w. But we know that w is 4, and that equals n. Okay, I'm on the third row, second column. So m, which is 1, minus w, which is 4, equals n. And so that means that n has to be negative 3. So there we're using matrix addition and subtraction to find specific elements. Let's take a look at a big picture of adding two matrices together. Suppose the following matrix represents the number of spectators that attend the first 4 football games of the year. And so here we have the first 4 football games of the year. There were 338 people from Homestead, 118 people from the visiting school, and then 415 people from Homestead in the second game, and there were 82 people from the visiting school, and so on. So you can see the numbers there. And then the second matrix represents the number of people who attended the first 4 football games at Carroll High School. And so suppose that all the proceeds of our 2 football teams and who went to those were split evenly between the 2 schools. They do have rules like that in our conference. The SAC conference splits a lot of the cost depending on where the game is at, what sport it is. And so what we would want to do is find the total of both teams, both stadiums. And so here we have a 4x2 matrix, or a 2x4 matrix, 2 rows, 4 columns. Here we have another 2x4 matrix, so we can add these together. And the resulting matrix is going to be another 2x4 matrix. And so now we're just going to add all of the elements together. So if I start with the first row, first column, that's 338 plus 212, which I believe is 550. If I move down that same row, I have 415 plus 310. That's going to be 725. Then if I keep going, 512 plus 316 is going to be 828. 311 plus 158 is going to be 469. So that's the first row. If I keep going then, the second row, I am now at 118 plus 180, which is going to be 298. 82 plus 92 is 174. 68 plus 86 is 154. And 76 plus 144 is 220. So that's what matrix addition and matrix subtraction look like. We'll work more on this in class tomorrow.